Hey everybody, welcome back to another live Q&A call with the Former Athletes Society. As always, I'm Adam Ringler, and if you're catching this replay because once again, nobody made it live to our Zoom call, I still appreciate you showing up. I know these recordings have been helping a few of you stay consistent, stay sharp, and feel like you're still part of something bigger than just yourself. I think that's really important to acknowledge, especially as you transition from your playing days into your professional ones. So, I want to kick things off. I got 5 community questions lined up from folks who actually sent them in, which is awesome, right? But uh, again, these questions are all centered around our Former Athlete Society. You can join it at adamringler.com. You go through the portal, you sign up, and you get access to these one-on-one Zoom calls. I host a private Zoom just for our community members, and then sometimes I share these videos publicly on my YouTube as well. But again, I get these questions all the time. I hear it in DMs, I hear it in the gym, the quiet sort of one-on-one conversations from former athletes who are just essentially still trying to figure out their sport identity after their eligibility runs out. So I thought today I'd dive into these 5 questions and just tackle them one by one, right? So this one comes from Mike. He's out in Kansas City, and he says, I've been trying to stay consistent with my squats, my deadlifts, but my knees have been barking at me lately. It's not a sharp pain, it's just a dull ache. And that makes me sort of hesitate a little bit. What would you suggest? Well, Mike, I'm not your doctor, number one, right? So you might need to see an ortho. You might need to see a physical therapist, somebody like that. But I want you just to acknowledge, I want you to thank you, right? Thank you for being honest, because most of us former athletes, we're stubborn as hell, right? We try to train through things like it's a badge of honor, but the truth is the body keeps score, and it whispers before it screams at you. And what you're describing to me, it sounds like the kind of sort of wear and tear discomfort I see all the time. It's not really an injury per se. It's just your knees are asking for maybe a little bit more respect than what you're giving them, right? So the things I would recommend is simple, right? Number one, regress to progress. And what I mean by that is just take a step back so that you can move forward pain-free. So that might be like if you're barbell back squatting for whatever reason, maybe trade it to a safety bar squat or a goblet squat for a few weeks. Maybe do some unilateral exercises, perhaps. Low tolerance is still there, but if you get more quad dominant patterns without compressing the knees too hard, that's a win for you, right? So I think we need to acknowledge where the pain is coming from. Also, don't underestimate how helpful slow tempo work can be. So adding in some like a 3-2-1 eccentric squat, maybe considering some banded TKEs as part of your warm up. So terminal knee extensions, they'll get that VMO firing a little bit more. You'll start to lubricate the joint, right? Your knees without as much stress. And then oftentimes I recommend this is that if you're squatting deep after sitting in a desk job all day, your hips and ankles might be stealing the show, right? And your knees are probably taking the hit for it. So do some sort of mobility work, whether it's a circuit or something before your lower body days. Think things like lunging, rotating, ankle mobs, foam rolling out your quads, your IT bands, get some banded ankle distractions in there. And 5 minutes later, and I'm telling you, it doesn't take a lot, 5 minutes later, it'll probably make your knees feel like you're 20 years old again, right? So, Mike, thanks for the question. That is awesome. Those are the types of things we want to dive in and really get super tangible with on our Former Athlete Society. So, as always, I appreciate you on that. Now, question 2. This one's from Lisa. She's out in San Diego. I'm trying to read it right here for my screen. I've been trying to get leaner and stronger, Adam, but I'm confused about when to actually eat carbs. Should I eat more on training days and less on rest days? How do you think I should go about carb cycling? Now, Lisa, that's a solid question, right? But let's clear this up. Carbs are fuel. They're not your enemy, right? They're like logs on the fire. You throw them on when the fire's hot, not when it's smoldering and dying like my kids do when we camp, right? So yes, carbohydrates and periodization, right? it makes sense, especially for somebody who's like you, who maybe is chasing a body composition goal, but still wants to move weight and really train hard. And I think that's admirable, right? You're trying to do it in a right way, in a way that's conducive to your health and your performance goals, right? Here's the real world approach though, right? On heavy training days, say you're lifting lower body, you're walking, you walk out sort of sweaty, your heart rate's up, your legs are cooked. Sure, go ahead, eat more carbohydrates, oats, rice, fruits, even bread, right? Because you earned it, right? That's really important. That fuel helps with your recovery and it keeps your metabolic rate sort of humming. And that's all super important, especially on your hard training days. Now, on off days, maybe scale it back a little bit. Keep protein consistent. Maybe pull back on some of the starchy carbohydrates and lean into more of the fibrous vegetables, more fats, and a slower pace overall. I think that's really critical to understand the intensity of your day may dictate the amount of carbohydrate, or i.e. fuel, that you get throughout your day. I think that's super important. But ultimately, don't overcomplicate it. This isn't the Mr. Olympia prep. You're not prepping for a bodybuilding show. It's life. So just think of it as if you're trying to match your intake with your output. So don't be afraid to trust how you feel. If your lifts are dragging, or if you feel like you've got no gas, you might be under fueling, and that's reality. So don't make it a math problem. Make it sort of part of your daily rhythm, if you will, right? So appreciate the question, Lisa. Keep DMing those questions to us, and we'll continue to keep answering those. Now, moving on. Again, I try to keep these about 10 to 15, maybe 10 to 20 minutes long. I don't like to have these monopolize your entire workday, so I want them to be real actionable, right directly to you, so that you can dedicate 15 minutes, as you're drinking coffee in the morning, and you get your questions answered here live. So question number 3. Oh, cool. From Colorado Springs, actually. Hey, it's Corey from Colorado. We just had our first baby. Congrats, by the way. That's awesome. Sleep is a mess. I'm not training like I used to, and I feel like I'm falling behind. Any strategies for surviving this season? I love the quote marks, this season. Yeah, well, let me tell you, a child changes your season. You go from preseason, in-season, off-season, all combined into one. It's the most hectic period of probably most people's lives. So I would say fatherhood can be brutal and beautiful all at the same time. So sleeping during this chapter, it's not going to be perfect, right? It's going to take a lot of work. But so let's knowing that it's not going to be perfect, let's take some of the pressure off of thinking like it should be, because quite frankly, it's not. Now, you're not falling behind on sleep. You're just adapting to a new season, right? The first 6 months after a baby are absolutely chaos. And your job now isn't to out-train the fatigue. It's to sneak in recovery whenever and wherever you can get it. So the things I've harked on in the past, I'll continue to sort of iterate them and scream them from the mountaintops. First off, get sunlight in your eyes in the morning. Very Andrew Huberman, if you will. It sounds basic, but morning light can actually reset your circadian rhythm. So if you're the person that's getting up at 3 a.m. to do a diaper change, try to go outside once the sun rises, even if that's for 5 minutes. Even if you sleep from 3 to 6, when you do wake up, try to get some natural sun exposure into your eyes. That's super helpful. Second, caffeine curfew. I'm a huge recommender of limiting your caffeine. Now, listen, you're a new parent. That's going to be hard. It's going to feel terrible sometimes. But when it's 2 p.m., it is so tempting to, go reach for a Celsius or an energy drink or a coffee when you're dragging. But it absolutely crushes your deep sleep. Third, think of your training. Even if it's not consistent, try short daily consistent efforts, right? You don't need to have a 60-minute training window like you used to, right? At least not during this season, if you will, as you're raising this young infant baby into, a toddler. So think 20-minute lifts, one big movement, perhaps like a trap bar deadlift or push-ups or squatting. And you can do that when, if you have the luxury of having a home gym or just even body weight exercises, you can do that with the baby monitor nearby. So your job now is just to kind of keep the flame alive without burning the house down. So you're not trying to create a bonfire. You're not trying to set PRs right now. You're just trying to survive this season until there's a more conducive time to actually train. Finally, get creative with your naps, right? Don't overthink the perfect time. So if you get a moment to lay down when you can, even 20 minutes, right? You're trying to rebuild some of that sleep depth that you're getting, that depth from actually having to wake up in the middle of the night and having disturbed deep sleep. So you're not doing it wrong. You're just parenting, Corey. This is a reality of most people as they, transition out of sport and they become new parents. It is a challenge to get sleep. So try to get it wherever you can. Appreciate the question, Corey. And if you're ever up in Boulder, Colorado, stop by, right? That's super awesome that you're down there. So next question. It is Jalen out in Chicago. Coach, I've been training hard again, eating right, but I am sore all of the time. What's new in the recovery space that's actually worth my time and money? What is new in the recovery space? So, listen, I think when you're a little older, recovery is the name of the game. When you're 30 plus, I'm almost 40, and you're still chasing performance and PRs and trying to get after it, there's no shame in needing a little bit more help from a recovery standpoint. So I'd say start with the basics, right? So are you hydrating? Are you sleeping at least 6 hours a night? Are you walking and getting something like 10 to 15,000 steps a day? And if not, then no recovery tech can really save you from those things. So those are sort of the basic things: nutrition, sleep, and those recovery things. But once the foundation is set, there's some really cool technologies out there that you can actually explore. So Hotbox is a great sort of one that you might look into in your area. Sauna. Some of them I know that have a cold plunge is a potential and super potent combo. You get some vasodilation and some constriction back to back. It's like giving your body sort of a flushing type effect of contrasting between hot and cold. If you can make it if you can't make it into a place like that, in an inflatable tub, you can do cold plunges at your house, in your backyard, or wherever it might be. And even just 2 to 3 minutes a few times a week, that can make a huge difference, I think. So that might be something to look into. There's also red light therapy, and that's popping up everywhere. So those panels work, right? You can actually get red light panels that you can put in your house. The thing about those is they take consistency. So 10 to 15 minutes a day while you're watching TV can help with some joint pain and some sleep quality. Also, maybe consider compression as well. So things like Normatec boots, there's some cheaper variations out there. You can kind of explore Amazon and elsewhere. But if you've got access to them, amazing for lower body recovery, especially post heavy lower body days, things like that. And lastly, I'd recommend light BFR is a huge recovery. I use it all the time with our athletes here, is that just going, you don't have to have full occlusion, right? So I have, let's see, we'll zoom out a little bit. I have these Hydro shorts. We use them all the time. Shout out to Hydro. These guys are super cool. Let's put them up right here. I know they look kind of weird. However, toss them over there. However, they're super rad, right? You can get sort of lower body occlusion. You can do a light work or cyclic activity like biking, and then rip off the occlusion. So you can do a couple, sets of going occluded, non-occluded, and that flushing like effect actually has some efficacy with recovery and feeling better. But remember, I think recovery isn't just about sort of pampering yourself. It's about preparing yourself for another hard day. So you recover so you can actually show up again tomorrow with a greater intensity. So love the question. Hope you get some luck or some info out of that. And then you can leverage those recovery modalities to actually enhance some of your training. Now, the last question I'm going to answer, this one's actually from Tiff, and she's out in Atlanta. I've surprisingly never been out to Atlanta, but I've been in a funk lately. My training is inconsistent. I feel bored, and I don't have the same fire I used to. How do I get it back? Well, thank you, Tiff, number one, for saying what most people won't, because I've been there too. And honestly, like, you don't need a new training program. You probably just need to attach yourself to a new reason to train. So when we stop playing sports, we lose sort of our internal scoreboard. We lose our season, and the days tend to sort of blend together. And I think the training starts to feel a little bit more like a chore rather than something that you actually look forward to, making progress towards something. So I suggest try this. Create some type of artificial seasons in your year. Pick a goal, right? And it might be 12 weeks. Maybe it's a Spartan race. Maybe it's hitting a 300-pound deadlift. Maybe it's just fitting into a jacket, like your Letterman jacket from your senior banquet or something like that. It doesn't really matter what the goal is, as long as you emotionally feel some sort of attachment to it. But you need to put the date on your calendar, your iCal, your Gmail or Google Calendar. Build a countdown, maybe a widget on your iPhone or something like that, and get a friend involved. Make a Google Sheet, buy the shoes, do the weird stuff that actually creates some excitement around the goal that you're actually trying to do. Because fire doesn't just show up on its own. You actually have to kind of like build that internal fire. And if that doesn't work, then maybe you need to think about trying to change your environment. Go train at a new gym. Try a jiu-jitsu class, book a trail run, right? You don't need motivation. What you need is maybe some novelty to your training and reason to train, right? So appreciate the question, Tiff, as always. I'm going to wrap up this call here, but and that's going to be it for our Q&A call. We do these every 9 a.m. on Thursdays, right? And if you're part of the Former Athlete Society, you go to the website, adamringler.com/former athlete. You have an opportunity to sign up and enroll in our exclusive community. It's just for former athletes, and I'm trying to deliver this for you to help make your training the best it has ever been, right? So just because you graduated, just because you exhausted your eligibility, it doesn't mean that your training has to stop, right? You can become the very best athlete that you ever have been well into your 30s, 40s, and 50s. So if you have questions or you have anything that you want me to tackle next week, drop it into the comments of this YouTube video or send me a direct message. I'm on all the socials, so you can find me. And I'll be here every week showing up, even if it's just me and this camera and our YouTube. So like always, guys, train hard, stay sharp. We're still in this season, right? You just got to actually act like it. So until then, I'll see you guys all next call. Appreciate y'all.